Hey everyone, how's it going? Juan Dhas here, and welcome to this week's lesson video, where today I'm going to be talking about voice leading, and kind of just the general principle of connecting harmony. Now in this video I'm going to be talking a little bit more about harmonic voice leading, but the same concepts are similar, relatively apply to melodic voice leading, but I might do a video on that in the future, for the linear playing. But to get into the topic right away, it's basically, how do we connect harmony? And really, how do we connect harmony in the smoothest way possible? Now, this might conjure up some familiar memories for people who've been in music theory classes of four-part harmony and looking at Bach chorales. Although in the context of the harmony we're working with today, where maybe it might be a little more adventurous, not all of the rules apply. But that said, it does bear importance to kind of just review the fundamentals of voice leading. And essentially, for those who are familiar with it, there are a couple of ground rules in the traditional sense, such as, smooth movement to chords, stepwise motion, common tones wherever possible, parallel fourths, fifths, and octaves and things like that. However, with this kind of harmony, we don't have to worry so much about the parallel voices, as we're really just trying to create a sound or an effect or a texture. And in contemporary music, that parallel movement is a sound that we've associated with for quite a long time now, and something that's become a part of the musical vocabulary, so to speak. So it bears saying, when working with this stuff, be aware of what sounds you're trying to create. Sounds and effects rather than the language. But to get a little deeper into the voice leading aspect, a lot of people tend to ask me, how do you connect your voicings, or what are you thinking about? And in a way, it kind of goes back to a lot of those fundamental concepts that I mentioned just prior. But it's really on an intuitive level, as opposed to, I'm thinking, okay, a common tone goes here, a common tone goes here. There isn't really a set system. Now, I could talk about cycles and chord cycles, which are a great way to start getting into voice leading. I did a reference to it in my triads video. I'm going to put the link somewhere here. But today I want to talk more in a general sense about just connecting chords. So really, the fundamental basic idea is, why do we want to do this? We want to create a smoother sound, a more connected sound, even going so far as to say a more melodic, harmonic, a melodic harmonic context. That's a weird sentence when you put it together, but yeah, it's creating a more melodic flow to how your harmony moves. So let's say, for example, I start with a chord, and automatically what I'm thinking of is, okay, where can I go? Now, if I'm playing on a tune, the parameters are a little different. Let's say I take a tune like I Love You by Cole Porter. Great tune, by the way. So let's say I start with drop voicing. So I'm starting with a third inversion drop 2, and what I want to do is try maintain common tones where possible, and then move in a smooth way to the next chord, which would be C7. In layman's terms, or in the simplest terms possible, it just means move to the nearest chord voicing. right? And then it goes to major. Then move to... So you see how it's automatically just creating a different motion. But still, we're looking at this from a very shape-based perspective. Chord shape to chord shape to, let's say, slightly different chord shape, but a chord shape nonetheless. Can do this to, let's say, another C7 voicing, and then if I want to continue with some of the motion, that would be for like the first few bars of that tune. But that's still very shape-based. Let's dive in a little deeper. And this is where actually going to people such as Eric Johnson or Alan Holdsworth proves to be valuable, because their perspective was heavily based around, I just hear melodies. Melodies within the chords themselves, and that's something I tap into. But the king of that was Bach. Actually, so much so that lately what I've been doing is just kind of reviewing Bach chorales and actually singing each part just to see how he moves through the harmony. And in some cases, trying to play these Bach chorales on guitar, which are not easy when you're trying to read them in one go. But so we can look at this and go, okay, this is more shape-based. There are still melodies within them, and one good exercise is to take a voice-led segment and then sing each voice of the chord. However, let's say we're now looking at this more from a composer's perspective, where now, depending on your compositional approach, the harmony you put afterwards may not fit within a paradigm of, let's say, tonal or functional harmony. So then it really goes based around your ear. So what I would do, let's say we start on this chord, is in my head I'm thinking, let's see, okay, if I'm thinking off the top note, let's say I want that melodic motion. Using voice leading, I can start finding different options than I normally would. And this is a cool little experiment to do, to start figuring out your own harmonic tendencies and also stuff that can become your own harmonic language. So let's say we start with this. That's beautiful. Okay, I like how that moves. What about... Okay, that also works. That could also be something effective. How about this? If you can figure out a melody that works around that, or how to make the inner voices move, that could be another approach. What about... And so you see, by also using my voice leading, I can generate some inner voice movement to create some more melody, but at the same time also imply different harmonic motion. So let's try another few examples with this, but bear in mind I'm still, for the most part, not really moving this voice for the first few examples I played. Or what about... yeah, I did that. Can also try that to get a minor third jump at most. But let's say I want to start experimenting with emotion. So we can borrow some of the concepts that Bach employed, such as contrary motion. And let's say if this voice moves up, our lowest voice can move down. Then where can we go from here? That's a beautiful little motion. So, and that comes from just generating ideas. Let's say, again, we can try this and go towards a cool little linear function. Lydian function. And add extra notes as color. So when it comes to voice leading, I'm taking this as a very general approach. I'm taking this as a general idea of I want the smoothest motion possible. And when it comes to my compositional approach, I'm not so much concerned about the function of the chord. I'm more concerned about what sound am I creating. So let's say this can even apply to more colorful voicings. So let's say I start with, say, it's a pretty tense sound. And where voice leading becomes effective is just creating tension resolution. So you can use your voice leading to smoothly create more tension as opposed to an abrupt sense, but then eventually resolve it to something that's a little more palatable. Let's say I want this to move down. Okay, actually, check this out. Smooth resolution of tension. We have a very tense structure. Right? That's actually a really cool motion. Now, bear in mind, those are bigger voicings. Let's say the voicings are a little more comfortable. Right? And I want to go up. Let's say... in my head, I'm singing all these melodies, or singing either one of the voices, either the top voice, the bottom voice, or imagining both at the same time, and then the inner voices are kind of a commentary on what's going on around it. So let's say, I don't know, I'm going to start with another triad. Okay? So starting from here. Or I can even do or various different options, depending on how bright or dark I want my sound to be. So I know this video is a little more conceptual than something I've done in the past, where maybe it's a little more specific, but this is talking about just general ideas to consider when working with voice leading. And once you've left the mechanical box of working on cycles, such as once you've left the mechanical box of cycles, it really depends on your own creativity. And I really recommend checking out the Bach chorales to see how Bach sometimes handled each voice. For example, some lines could be fairly static and some lines could be fairly melodic. If I were to assimilate some of those ideas in a more modern context. You see I have this melodic voice up here, but the motion between the chord or between the harmony is fairly smooth. Where these voices, this voice staying, this voice moving, and this one moving, actually staying the same. So it creates for a more cohesive and actually, I would argue, even a more palatable effect, especially when your harmony gets very dense and very heavy. The easier or the more melodic the treatment is of the voicing, the easier it is to listen to, because there are all these little melodies happening in pretty much every voice, whether they are conscious or not. So I hope this video gives you a little insight as to what I'm thinking about when it comes to voice leading, and especially voice leading is applied to more colorful harmony. And yeah, feel free to experiment with these ideas. I'd love to see what you guys come up with. So take care, all the best. And if you have any videos you want me to do, any topics you wanted me to cover, please write them in the comments. It's always helpful to see what you guys want to see. All right, have a good one.